Thank you, David. For the final speaker in our urban biodiversity section, we'll hear David Lefcourt, who is the City of Cambridge Arborist, and believe it or not, he's going to tell us about trees.
All right, good morning. So it's been interesting listening to these three speakers before me are all in the academia world, and I'm on the front line, I guess, dealing with the world of urban forestry. It is a very challenging but yet fun world to be in. I don't have the PhD, but I am very certified and involved in this local and the international level of urban forestry, so I'm always trying to find the newest and greatest things for the city of Cambridge. Always stealing ideas from other municipalities, and we're doing a lot of great things here in Cambridge that folks are calling me up throughout the country and world and saying, hey, I heard you're doing some cool things, can we steal? And I say, go right ahead. So just by show of hands, how many here are actually Cambridge residents? All right, so hopefully some of the stuff I'll be talking to you about you already know about or you've taken part in, or if not, I hope to see you get involved with it. So, the two things that I was sort of asked to talk about in a 10-minute time frame was invasives versus non-invasives, and what we're doing to help maintain the biodiversity of the urban forest in Cambridge. So one of the huge things that any municipality can have, especially, well, anybody who's managing assets, but especially urban forestry, is a tree inventory. Tree inventory is huge. The amount of things that you can do with a tree inventory is incredible. Just for the picture here, you can see that I am responsible for roughly over 19,000 trees throughout the city. The darker green represents street trees, which is roughly around 12,000, 13,000 street trees, and then the lighter green represents parks, cemeteries, school grounds, other municipal grounds. So the diversity, if I were to take the points that I just showed you here and color code them, we're doing the best we can to try to. Well, if we're doing there's always room for improvement. Even as great of an urban forestry program Cambridge has, there's always room for improvement. But if I were to color code it based on species, it's getting more and more colorful, as the years go on. So we're trying our best to diversify the urban forest, and just kind of zoom in on a street level, just kind of showing that we're doing what we can to diversify. Obviously, there's certain streets that still contain a large amount of the same species, but we're trying to diversify it because if anybody knows about Asian longhorn beetle out in the Worcester area that was discovered back in 2008, it goes after maples, elms, and a few others I'm blanking on, but there were towns in Worcester, communities within Worcester and the surrounding communities were just had these monocultures of the species that the ALB loves to go after, and all streets were just wiped out of trees. So what I'm trying to do is hopefully, as time goes on, is diversify the streets so that, if we do get a pest that comes through in the city, hopefully only maybe a small 10, 20, 30% max will get wiped out on a block versus, a whole block. You'd hear stories about people going to work in the morning with their street, lined with trees, and they come home from work and the government and the contractor came in and had to take down all the host-specific materials. So in regards to tree diversity, this is a list of, this is not inclusive of all the different things that we plant, but I try to show this is at least over 85 different species of trees we plant throughout the city. I try in blue, which doesn't come out too well, maybe it's better from your angle, but blue is the native, or I discussed this with my coworker about native and how much should we pare it down? Should we talk about Massachusetts, New England, East Coast? So this is kind of showing a lot of different areas of potential. There's debate for how native some of these species are here, but so as you can see here, if we move to just completely all native trees, we wipe out roughly half the list of trees. And if you really start looking at some of the different species here, white oak doesn't do well as a street tree. White ashes, all the ashes are now susceptible to the emerald ash borer, which is if it's not in the area, it's going to be here any day now. And there's certain other things, pines, you can't grow pines as street trees. Paper birch is very susceptible to borer in the city. So there's a lot of things here that there's a give and take between the native and non-native in regards to managing diversity. And then just another thing that we're trying to always look at, how can we improve the canopy, the overall canopy of Cambridge. And last summer, I had an intern go out and just, in an ideal world, identify any potential new tree well. This is, blank space, blank canvas of sidewalk. And just in this section of Cambridge alone, about a fifth of the city or so, he was able to come up with roughly 2,600 potential new tree wells. Obviously, it's not, there's more to it than just saying, hey, we're going to add 2,600 trees in here. But there's the potential for, over time to get an additional 10,000 trees in the city. Now I'm kind of sort of transitioning into how do I work with others in the city? And this is a lot of different things that we're doing in the city. Just to kind of go through, tree walks, tree talks with the neighborhood, public outreach, working with volunteers, working with citizen science with Earthwatch, definitely having a good working relationship with other departments, and educating contractors. This is most of this stuff is tied into trying to maintain what we already have in place. So neighborhood tree walks, for those who aren't familiar, Cambridge is divided into 13 neighborhoods. So I try to do every year. A couple tree walks in different neighborhoods and kind of just highlight the different things that are going on. Usually a construction project that was just completed and how we've managed to save trees in conjunction with construction projects, or just kind of just letting people know what the urban forestry does, all the different things, all the ins and outs. Kind of interesting the different things that people say after the walks about how they didn't realize people are so focused on either looking at their iPhone or something like that, or just looking down. They don't really look up, and after these tree walks, people start to look up more, start to really appreciate the urban forest. Neighborhood tree walk. Cambridge Port was concerned about they didn't think they had a very diverse and treed neighborhood, and felt that they were neglected. So the great thing about having an inventory is I was able to put together a little talk for them. And this is the Cambridge Port neighborhood. And there's a breakdown. This is a talk I did back in 2011, so the numbers are a little off, but just kind of show they had a little over 13% of the canopy in Cambridge, or for that. The municipal canopy that we're responsible for, and they were the fourth treed neighborhood in the city back in 2011 when we did this. We haven't done an update since then, but it probably hasn't changed too much. And just kind of did a breakdown of the top 15 species that they had in their neighborhood. And it's great to see that when I first started working with the inventory, Norway maple dominated the top of the list. So that is dropping down throughout the city. We do not, remove Norway maple just because it's on the invasive species list. As long as it's a healthy tree providing more benefits than negatives to the city, we're going to, preserve it as long as we can. And then they had a concern about why, the trees that we weren't planted on in Cambridge. One of the battles is trying to maintain an accessible sidewalk and still be able to maintain trees. And all these, we no longer plant. And sidewalks are less than 6 feet wide due to ADA accessibility issues. So we're just highlighting, most of these streets are less than the sidewalks are less than 6 feet wide, so we're able to plant trees in the sidewalk. But if there's an opportunity for a back of sidewalk tree planting, we will talk with the resident or the business owner. And then other things that we do to help promote, last year we launched this, a Treemap in Cambridge. You might have seen it. I think we just posted it again on Twitter or all the different other social media outlets that we have. Just kind of showing over the course of the season what different things are going to be in bloom. And it got picked up by the Boston Globe last year, so it was pretty cool. And then another thing we launched as well is a fall foliage map. Just kind of showing where the peak foliage could be, and if you go to the website, you can even drill down and see on your street who's got the highest or the different fall colors. And the other things I do is definitely working with volunteers. There's an opportunity working with some Girl Scouts, the young folks, trying to get them out there and touching trees and getting involved with nature, because I have 2 little ones and they love to play on the electronics, but I try to get them outside as much as I can as well. So. So it's always trying to get the young folks outside. There's another program that we launched a number of years ago called the Junior Forester, where we try to get young kids between the ages of like 5 and 13 to adopt a street tree or a tree near their house or school, and they get this cool certificate and badge. So it's a pretty cool program we have in place. Another thing I get to do is working with Earthwatch. We've been over the past 2 or 3 years. They've been measuring the young trees throughout the city, and hopefully we'll get an idea of what species are doing well, through growth and over time. and there's some other potential projects that we're working on. And I'll kind of speed up a little bit, but you may have seen, all new trees in the city get planted with gator bags. This past year, we started putting this literature on because we noticed a lot of the gator bags weren't really being touched. So once we started putting these on, we noticed more residents and business owners were starting to adopt a tree in front of their house. And for those who don't know, who live in Cambridge, it's okay to help, take care of the trees in the city and water them if you can. And so we just did a big PR campaign throughout the city. We do have a water by bike program where an intern bikes around the city tying into fire hydrants and filling up the gator bags throughout the city. This year we plan to have 2 water by bike interns biking throughout the city. And then the other cool things is a public-private partnership where the Lampoon building in Harvard Square wanted to help get some more trees in Harvard Square, so we worked together with planting some trees throughout these 2 or 3 blocks of Harvard Square on Mount Auburn Street. EAB, big issue, a lot of information here. More or less, we have about 800 ash trees in the city. The city of Cambridge is the only community in New England that I know of as of right now that has taken a proactive stance and is treating our trees with an organically labeled product to help maintain the ash trees, because some of our, we have fairly healthy, ash trees make up a little less than 5% of the tree population in Cambridge, and some of our parks are heavily treed with ash. So to lose those ash in those parks would make a big difference. So, oop, what did I hit there? Something just this. Okay. So that's this is some information, but research has shown it's cheaper to treat versus just letting the beetle run its course and removing the trees, over a 3 to 7 year period. Just kind of showing the ashes throughout our city. And then trees in construction, this is a big thing. It's just, more or less just making sure that the contractor understands that they need to be as careful as possible working around trees in the city, because, we're here, I'm here to, preserve and make sure that we maintain the existing urban forest for many years to come. And just some other things I emphasize with the contract, no wounding tree, be careful of the roots, no compacting it. And then this pretty much wraps me up as some of the things that we're doing to help improve, planting of trees or existing trees. And it's not the greatest picture, but more or less this year represents the Mass Ave demo block where we installed some structural soil underneath the sidewalk to help improve the soil volume. So hopefully we'll get trees, surviving and thriving in this area. And then you may have seen this throughout the city as we're installing FlexiPave. Instead of utilizing tree grates, we're now putting FlexiPave in, where it's a permeable material, allows water and air exchange to take place. But in areas where there's a lot of pedestrians or very narrow sidewalks, it helps increase the sidewalk area, but still minimizes soil compaction, doesn't collect the weeds or litter like tree grates do. And so far we're having great success. It held up to the winter with all the sidewalk snowplow and all that stuff. And that's all I got.